Alright, so this is a video about doing a clutch replacement on a Honda Civic EP4. That is a 1.7 CTDI diesel engine, manual transmission, left-hand drive. A couple notes about this car specifically. This is a facelift version, so 2004 and 2005. And the gearbox oil is this right here, Honda MTF3, and you're gonna need 2 liters. So first things, you should have obviously the new clutch, gearbox oil, brake oil, and a big jack. I have this jack right here. This is not enough. I don't have much clearance here. Try and find a bigger jack so you can have more clearance to work underneath the car. So after you have all this, you should start by removing the air filter box, the battery and its supports, all this here. Then you can remove the car's under tray, you see right here, and then remove the gearbox oil, which you can drain through this bolt right here. As you can see, my camera is not focusing, but this one right here on the center. Alright, when you've done all the previous points, then you can disengage the shift knob cables. The cables are mounted on this support, which is a little bit further down. It's these things that you need to get out of. There are 3 bolts holding the support bracket for them. Then you should remove the hydraulic master clutch that is supposed to be here. I already removed it. It's right here, as you can see. You also need to disengage a cable here from the battery, and these 2 support brackets for the cooling pipe. Then you have, I don't know if you can see right here, one, this is the second, this is the third bolt for the gearbox. Then I recommend you undo this screw right here for the support, because you're going to need to remove this support to get to that bolt down there, and it's much harder to do that after you have the car higher up, as we're going to have to do. Also, you have this support right here. This bolt, you should get it almost out. Don't get it out just yet. Few notes before you jack the car up. You should remove the brake calipers. I got them up here with a zip tie so they don't fall down. Remove the ABS sensor, don't forget about it. And undo these 2 screws from the suspension arm, and then you can start jack the car up. Also, you have these 3 bolts that you can see here on screen right now. You need to undo these as well. So I'm doing this video after I removed the gearbox, but nonetheless, this support right here, you are going to use this one and the other from the engine to suspend the engine and the gearbox while you remove the subframe. That way you don't need to support anything, the engine or the gearbox, so you can remove the subframe altogether, and then you do the support for the engine and use a jack to lower both the engine and the gearbox enough for you to disengage the gearbox and get it out. It's done, the subframe is out of the vehicle, and I don't have anything supporting the engine because we have 2 engine mounts that keep it there. Right now we need to undo the bolts from the gearbox, from the engine, this one. There's also these 2 behind here, and don't forget that they are all different sizes. I recommend you to put this one back in so that you can support the gearbox to the engine so it doesn't fall off. Now I'm trying to get something underneath the engine so I can remove the gearbox safely. Alright, now the gearbox is out. You can see clearly where the bolts connect to the engine. Here's the gearbox. So what I did was I had the engine supported and then used the jack to lower the gearbox just enough for it to drop. It drops pretty easy if the engine is low enough. Here I have my old clutch plate and the bearing. As you can see, this bearing really suffered a beating from the fork. This is really bad. So when you take out this bearing, also check out your fork. Those little things that actuate on the bearing, I had to give them a little touch because they were a little damaged because of the amount of damage this old bearing already had. So be sure to check that out. Make sure it's in good condition to put up the new bearing and the new clutch. Also, fun fact, yeah, whatever, my clutch was a little bent. As you can see, I have this mark over here just on one half of the clutch, which was doing this right here. So if you are hearing a loud scratching noise in your car while you're rolling around, I guess this is the culprit. So now you know. Also, another note, this is my original clutch and it's from this company, Luke, and the plate is also Luke. Also, pay attention when you remove this. At least the original does say the transmission side on the plate. I don't know if yours is gonna say that, if it's aftermarket already or something. So be sure to remember which side is the transmission side, because they don't go, as you can see, it's different from both sides. You don't want to put that in the wrong way when you put the new one in. Quick notes about putting up the clutch and plate. So the clutch doesn't have any guidelines, so you need to rotate it until you can find all the spots to put it back in. And if you don't have an alignment tool, you're kind of crazy, but I'm crazy as well. I had to use this to try and measure from the outside before I tighten the plate against the clutch. I was measuring how much distance I had on 3 separate spots, and as long as they are almost lined up, you should be good. But honestly, just use an alignment tool, it's much better. Finally got the gearbox on. Here's a tip for you. You see this bolt right here? Try and put the jack here, because this is parallel to the ground. It's a good point of equilibrium of the gearbox. Also, a tip is to, you see that support right there? You remove the support from the gearbox and you tie the support to the actual chassis. So you tie this to the chassis, and then when you're raising the gearbox, you can align this and this to the support, and it's much easier once you get the nuts here. You can pretty much hang the gearbox from here, and you're pretty much done once you've done that. To get the under chassis on very easily, you do the following. Get some stubs underneath these points on both sides. Then you get a jack and a nice piece of wood that goes all across from that end to this end. As long as your piece of wood hits this part on both sides, you're good. They need to be centered right around here. So center your piece of wood right here, jack in the middle, jack it up, and it's pretty easy to get it in the position with the jack. As long as the jack has some wheels like this one, it's very simple.